Happy holidays! Are you looking to familiarize yourself with the fundamentals of security, compliance, and identity, that is SCI, across cloud-based and related Microsoft services? If yes, then you are at the right place. Whether you are an IT professional, business stakeholder, or a student, you would want to understand how Microsoft SCI solutions can span across Microsoft Azure and M365 areas to provide a holistic and end-to-end solution. Hi, I am Sucheta, the creator of this session, Security, Compliance, and Identity Concepts in Microsoft Azure, which I am presenting as part of the Festive Tech Calendar 2023, hosted by the amazing Cloud Family team. I've listed a couple links where you can learn more about the Festive Tech Calendar, which runs excellent tech content from amazing speakers throughout December. So do check out all the other sessions as well. About myself, here's some more information. I am a manager in healthcare IT with a focus on endpoint engineering. I specialize in modern management and enterprise mobility, leveraging Azure and Endpoint Configuration Manager. I am a 12 times Microsoft certified professional who likes learning tech and collaborating for knowledge sharing with tech enthusiasts. I have strived to cover the most important concepts pertaining to security in Azure in this session. However, the technology is evolving rapidly. So note that my content covers information that is current as of Christmas 2023. As for the agenda, I have broken down the presentation into four major parts. The first section, I'll walk you through a high-level overview of Azure's security, compliance, and identity concepts. Then starting from section 2, we will delve further into the individual areas, starting with identity, then on to security, and we'll finish off with learning about compliance. So as you see listed here, we'll first walk through the various basic concepts of SCI. So let's get started with learning about the common security and compliance concepts that are foundational to Microsoft solutions. With business data increasingly accessed beyond the traditional corporate network, ensuring security and maintaining compliance are paramount. Companies must safeguard their data everywhere, whether on network or in the cloud, while also meeting industry and regulatory standards to protect data privacy. When organizations move to the cloud, some responsibilities transfer to the cloud provider and some to the customer. We have a shared responsibility model. In on-premises environments, organizations bear full responsibility for security and compliance. In contrast, cloud services follow a shared responsibility model, where the cloud provider and customer divide security tasks. The shared responsibility model delineates security duties between the cloud provider and the customer, varying by the hosting environment of the workload. The figure shows how responsibility is split between the customer and the cloud provider based on the location of the data. The shared responsibility model applies to the three different cloud service types: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. On premises, customers manage everything, including physical and data security. In IaaS, customers handle software and data on the provider's infrastructure. The provider covers physical components. A VM is a good example. PaaS provides an environment for building, testing, and deploying software applications. Providers manage hardware and OS. Customers manage applications and data. In SaaS, providers fully host and manage the software. Customers manage their data, accounts, and identities. Office 365 is an example of SaaS. However, for all cloud deployment types, you, the cloud customer, own and are responsible for securing the information and data, devices, mobile and PCs, and accounts and identities. Let's learn about the defense in depth and zero trust concepts. Defense in depth does not only rely on a single perimeter. It employs multiple defensive mechanisms to impede an attack's progress. With each protective layer acting as a safeguard, even if one is compromised, a subsequent layer will prevent an attacker getting unauthorized access to data. The figure on the left shows the various layers of security. The aim of such a cybersecurity strategy, which encompasses technologies, processes, and training, is to uphold the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems, networks, applications, and data. Zero trust assumes everything is on an open and untrusted network, even resources behind the firewalls of the corporate network. The zero trust model rests on three principles: explicit verification of all access requests using comprehensive data points, enforcement of least privileged access to minimize exposure, and operating under the assumption of a breach to enhance readiness and response with segmentation, encryption, and analysis. The figure on the right shows the 6 foundational pillars of zero trust. A security strategy that employs the 3 principles of zero trust, that is, verify explicitly, least privileged access, and assume breach, across the 6 foundational pillars, that strategy ensures continuous validation and enforcement without automatically trusting any identity, whether inside or outside the organization's boundaries. Next up, encryption, hashing, and GRC. Encryption, which scrambles data to shield it from unauthorized access, requires a secret key to decrypt. There are 2 main types: symmetric, using one key for both encrypting and decrypting, and asymmetric, employing a key pair where the encryption key differs from the decryption key. This technique secures data whether it's stored or being sent. Hashing transforms text into a fixed length hash, a unique identifier that cannot be decrypted. It's routinely used for secure password storage. When a user inputs a password, it is hashed and compared to the stored hash to confirm a match. However, due to hashing's predictability, hackers can use brute force attacks to crack it. To prevent this, salting is applied, adding random data to inputs, ensuring unique hashes for the same passwords. Now, organizations today are navigating complex regulatory environments, necessitating a structured approach to governance, risk, and compliance, that is GRC. By establishing GRC competency, organizations can develop frameworks encompassing specific policies, processes, and technologies, aiding in risk reduction and compliance effectiveness. Understanding the key GRC terms is crucial. Governance. This involves the rules, practices, and processes used to direct and control organizational activities, often shaped by external standards and expectations. It includes defining access controls and administrative privileges within a company. Risk management. This entails identifying, assessing, and responding to potential threats affecting company or customer objectives. Risks may be external, example, political changes, natural disasters, security breaches, or the risks could be internal, example, data leaks, intellectual property theft. Third one is compliance. Compliance refers to adhering to relevant laws and regulations which dictate data protection standards, required processes, and penalties for non-compliance. While distinct from security, effective security measures are often integral to achieving compliance. Compliance management involves data residency, regulations dictating where data can be stored, and its international transfer, processing, and access. Compliance management also involves data sovereignty, the principle that data is governed by the laws of the country where it's collected, held, or processed. Third up is data privacy. Involves transparently handling personal data, including its collection, processing, use, and sharing in line with various privacy laws, regulations, and industry standards. Understanding compliance-related terminology and concepts is essential for organizations managing data as they aim to meet mandatory legal and regulatory requirements. Now on to the identity overview. The landscape of digital collaboration has evolved, with increased remote work and the need for accessing resources from any location and device. This shift requires a redefinition of enterprise security beyond the traditional on-premises network. The new security perimeter encompasses SaaS applications hosted outside the corporate network, personal and unmanaged devices used for work, BYOD, and by partners and customers, IoT devices within the corporate network and customer locations. Identity has emerged as the new security perimeter, essential for protecting assets. An identity, whether of a user, application, or device, is defined by authentication elements like usernames and passwords and their authorization levels. The four pillars of identity infrastructure encompass administration, which is managing the creation and governance of user, device, and service identities, including how these identities are created, updated, or deleted. Authentication, meaning verifying identities by requiring legitimate credentials to prove an entity is who they claim to be. Authorization, which means determining the access level of an authenticated person or service within an application or service. And lastly, auditing, and that means monitoring and recording activities, including detailed reporting, alerts, and governance of identities. Together, these pillars form the foundation of a thorough and effective identity and access control solution. Let's learn about authentication and authorization. There's a difference between them. Authentication is verifying identity, like using a driver's license to confirm the name on a credit card. It involves credentials like a username and password to access a computer or device. Authorization is about granting access to specific areas and resources after authentication. It's like a hotel key card allowing access only to certain areas. In cybersecurity, this means setting permissions for what an authenticated user can see or do. Now, what is the role of the identity provider? Modern authentication refers to the methods of authentication and authorization between clients, like laptops or phones, and servers, such as websites or apps. It revolves around an identity provider, which creates, maintains, and manages identity information and provides authentication, authorization, and auditing services. In this framework, a central identity provider supplies all authentication services and centrally manages user authentication data. This centralized approach allows organizations to set authentication and authorization policies, monitor user behavior, detect suspicious activities, and mitigate malicious attacks. Let's describe the concept of directory services and Active Directory. A directory in a computer network is a structure storing information about network objects. Directory services like Microsoft Active Directory, or AD, provide this data to users and administrators. AD, integral to Windows 2000 for domain-based networks, manages domain members credentials, and access rights through its primary service, ADDS, that is Active Directory Domain Services. However, ADDS doesn't natively support modern authentication needs for mobile devices and SaaS applications. The rise of cloud services and personal devices at work has led to the evolution of Active Directory solutions. Entra ID, which was formerly known as Azure Active Directory, part of Entra, is an example, offering an identity as a service or IDaaS solution for both cloud and on-premises applications. For more detailed comparisons between Active Directory and Entra ID, you can refer to some Microsoft documentation. A key feature of identity providers and modern authentication is single sign-on, SSO, where a user logs in once to access multiple applications or resources. Linking SSO across various identity providers is known as federation. Federation allows access to services across different organizations or domains by creating trust between their identity providers, eliminating the need for users to have separate usernames and passwords for each domain. In a federation scenario, a website in domain A uses authentication services from identity provider A, which is IDPA. A user from domain B authenticates with identity provider B, IDPB. IDPA has a trust relationship with IDPB, as shown in the figure. Because of this trust, the user from domain B can access the website in domain A. Trust in federation isn't always two-way. IDPA's trust in IDPB doesn't imply the reverse. Now that we are done with the concepts overview, let's start learning further about the individual categories of SCI, starting with topics around identity and Entra ID as listed here. Entra ID, previously Azure Active Directory, is Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management solution, covering services and identity principles, secure authentication, access management, identity protection, and governance. It enables users to access internal resources like corporate network, apps, and intranet, and external services including Office 365 and SaaS applications. It streamlines authorization and access management across cloud and on-premises apps, and can sync with on-premises Active Directory and other directory services. Entra ID also supports secure use of personal devices and collaboration with business partners and customers. Entra ID features an identity secure score, a percentage indicating alignment with Microsoft's security best practices, customized to your configuration. It helps measure and improve your identity security posture and track the success of your enhancements. Let's understand some basic terminology pertaining to Entra. Tenant. An Entra tenant is a unique instance of Entra ID, containing an organization's data like users, groups, devices, and app registrations. It includes policies for resource access and compliance, identified by a unique tenant ID and domain name. Example is contoso.onmicrosoft.com. It acts as a security and administrative boundary for managing access to organizational resources. Then the next one is directory. Often used synonymously with tenant, the Entra directory within a tenant organizes identity and access management resources, functioning like a database of identities and related objects. Then we have multi-tenant. Organizations with multiple independent Entra ID instances are multi-tenant. So who uses Entra ID? Entra ID enables IT admins to manage access to corporate apps and resources, including setting up multi-factor authentication for crucial assets. Developers use it for adding single sign-on (SSO) to apps, allowing sign-in with existing credentials, and providing APIs for personalized app experiences using organizational data. Entra ID supports various identity types, including user, workload, device, external, and hybrid identities. In Entra ID, identities can be assigned to people, physical devices, software-based objects like applications, virtual machines, and services. Let's look at each type of Entra ID. User identities include employees and external users and are defined by their authentication method and user type. Authentication can be internal, using an account from the host organization's Entra ID, or external, using an account from another organization or an external identity provider. User type, either guest or member, determines the user's privileges within the host organization's Entra tenant, with guests typically having limited access compared to members. Workload identities. A workload identity is an identity you assign to a software workload, enabling the software workload to authenticate to and access other services and resources. Workload identities are applications, service principals, and managed identities. Applications and service principals. A service principal is an identity of an application. The application must be registered for it to delegate its identity and access functions to Entra ID. Then a service principal is created, which enables core features such as authentication and authorization of the application to resources that are secured by the Entra tenant. Managed identities. These are a type of service principal that are automatically managed in Entra ID. Managed identities provide an identity for applications to use when connecting to Azure resources that support Entra authentication. System assigned and user assigned are the two types of managed identities. What would be a system assigned identity? Virtual machines in Azure allow you to enable a managed identity directly on the resource. When you enable a system assigned managed identity, an identity is created in Entra that's tied to the life cycle of that resource. So when the resource is deleted, the identity is automatically deleted. What is user-assigned identity? You may create a managed identity as a standalone resource. Once you create a user-assigned managed identity, you can assign it to one or more instances of an Azure service. With user-assigned managed identities, the identity is managed separately from the resources that use it. Deleting the resources that use the user-assigned managed identity doesn't delete the identity. The user-assigned managed identity must be explicitly deleted. A device identity gives administrators information that they can use when making access or configuration decisions. Device identities can be set up in different ways. Entra registered devices. This registers to Entra ID without requiring an organizational account. Second option is Entra joined. This is a device joined to Entra ID through an organizational account. Then we have Entra hybrid joined devices. These devices are joined to on-premises Active Directory and Entra ID, requiring organizational account to sign in to the device. Registering and joining devices to Entra ID gives users SSO to cloud-based resources. IT admins use Microsoft Intune, a cloud-based service that focuses on MAM or MDM, mobile application management or mobile device management, to control how an organization's devices are used. Then we have groups. If you have several identities with the same access needs, you create a group. You use groups to give access permissions to all members of the group instead of having to assign access rights individually. There are two group types, a security group and an M365 group. A security group is used to manage user and device access to shared resources. Members can include users, including external users, devices, other groups, and service principals. An M365 group, which is referred to a distribution group, is used for grouping users according to collaboration needs. For example, you can give members of the group access to a shared mailbox. Members of M365 group can only include users, including those outside of the organization. Groups can be configured to allow members to be assigned, that is, manually selected, or they can be configured for dynamic membership. Dynamic membership uses rules to automatically add and remove identities. Now, what is external identity? We work with people both inside and outside the organization and need to provide access to organization's applications or data to external users. Entra External ID refers to all the ways you can securely interact with users outside the org. External identities include capabilities such as B2B collaboration, B2B direct connect, Entra External ID for customers, which is in preview, and Entra multi-tenant organization. And lastly, on this slide, we have hybrid identity. Now, there's need to have a single identity across applications, on-premises and cloud-based. Hybrid identity is a common identity for authentication and authorization to all resources. It is accomplished through provisioning and synchronization of users, groups, and contacts through Entra Connect Cloud Sync using the Entra Cloud Provisioning Agent. Entra Connect Cloud Sync Provisioning Agent uses the System for Cross-Domain Identity Management SCIM specification. Interdirectory provisioning is provisioning an identity between two different directory service systems. Synchronization is responsible for making sure identity information for your on-premises users and groups is matching the cloud. One of the main features of an identity platform is to verify or authenticate credentials when a user signs in to a device, app, or service. Passwords pose security risks if they are simple, and productivity issues if they are complex. Entra offers more secure authentication methods to supplement or replace passwords. Entra offers two phone-based authentication methods, SMS-based authentication and voice call verification. With the SMS-based, users can sign in using their mobile number. They receive a verification code via SMS, which they enter in the sign-in interface. This can also be used as a secondary authentication method during password resets or MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. Voice call verification. Now, as a secondary authentication option, users can receive an automated voice call to their registered number. To authenticate, they press hash on their keypad. Open authentication. This is a standard for generating time-based one-time password (TOTP) codes for user authentication. In Entra ID, it can be implemented via software tokens or hardware tokens. Both tokens serve as secondary authentication methods for self-service password resets, that is SSPR, or multi-factor authentication, that is MFA. Next, passwordless authentication. Windows Hello for Business offers passwordless two-factor authentication, combining a device-specific key or certificate with a PIN or biometrics. Next is FIDO, Fast Identity Online. This is a passwordless authentication open standard that allows users and organizations to sign in to their resources using an external security key or a platform key built into the device, eliminating the need for a username and password. The Authenticator app. This is a passwordless authentication method for signing into Entra accounts and can be used for verification during password resets or MFA. Users download the app from the Microsoft Store on Android or iOS. It enables passwordless sign-in by matching a screen displayed number with the one on the user's phone, followed by biometric or PIN confirmation. The Authenticator app can also generate an open authentication verification code, which provides a second form of authentication for SSPR or MFA. Cert-based auth. This allows to authenticate with X.509 certificates for application and browser sign-ins, acting as a form of passwordless authentication. Primary versus secondary auth. Authentication methods vary between primary, which is used for initial sign-in to applications or devices, and secondary, used during Entra multi-factor authentication or SSPR. Further into the authentication capabilities, we have MFA. Multi-factor authentication requires users to provide additional identification during sign-in, like a code from their phone or a fingerprint scan, enhancing security. It involves something that the user knows, that is a password or PIN, something they have, a trusted device like a phone or hardware key, and something they are, that is biometrics, for instance. Then we have SSPR, which allows users to change or reset their password for themselves. This reduces help desk calls and loss of productivity. Among other things, users must be registered with authentication methods such as mobile app code, security questions, etc. The password protection feature helps minimize the risk of users choosing weak passwords. It identifies and blocks commonly used weak passwords, their variations, and organization-specific weak terms. This includes default global banned password lists for all users in an Entra tenant, with options to add custom banned passwords. Protecting against password spray, password protection blocks all known weak passwords likely to be used in password spray attacks. This protection is based on real-world security telemetry data from Entra ID. Lastly here, to implement hybrid security, admins can integrate password protection within an on-premises AD environment. This approach makes sure that wherever a user changes their password, password protection is applied. A key function of Entra ID is to manage access. Conditional access, Entra roles, and RBAC, that is role-based access control, help organizations manage and control access. Conditional access provides an extra layer of security before allowing authenticated users to access data and other assets. A conditional access policy analyzes signals, including user, location, device, application, and risk, to automate decisions for authorizing access to resources, such as apps and data. These policies are if-then statements. For example, if a user belongs to a certain group, then they are required to provide MFA to sign in to an application. Since conditional access policies are enforced after first factor authentication, conditional access is not intended to be an organization's first line of defense for scenarios like denial of service attacks. But it can use signals from these events to determine access. Roles and role-based access control. Entra roles control permissions to manage resources. For example, allowing user accounts to be created or billing information to be viewed. Entra ID supports built-in and custom roles. Managing access using roles is known as role-based access control, that is RBAC. Entra built-in and custom roles are a form of RBAC in that Entra roles control access to Entra resources. This is referred to as Entra RBAC. Entra ID includes many built-in roles with a fixed set of permissions. Roles such as Global Administrator. Users with this role have access to all administrative features in Entra. Or roles such as a User Administrator. Users with this role can create and manage all aspects of users and groups. A custom role definition is a collection of permissions that you can choose from a preset list. This type gives you flexibility. You get to choose which permissions you want to include in a custom role. Only grant the access users need. By assigning least privileges, you limit the damage that could be done with a compromised account that may have non-required permissions assigned. There are categories of Entra roles. Some M365 services, like Exchange and Intune, have their own RBAC systems. Others like Teams and SharePoint use Entra roles for administration. Entra and Azure RBAC role control access to different resources using built-in and custom roles. Entra RBAC manages access to Entra resources like users and applications, while Azure RBAC governs Azure resources such as virtual machines and storage using Azure Resource Manager. Let's look into protection and governance capabilities for identities. Identity protection is about protecting an organization's identities against risk and potential vulnerabilities. Identity governance is about balancing identity security with user productivity in a way that can be justified and audited. Entra provides many identity protection and governance capabilities that work together to mitigate risk by protecting, monitoring, and auditing access to critical assets. Entra ID gives organizations the ability to govern the identity lifecycle, govern access lifecycle, and secure privileged access for administration. Managing the lifecycle of an identity is about updating the access that users need. Access lifecycle management involves adjusting user access levels throughout their tenure in an organization based on their role and responsibilities. This process can be automated using technologies like dynamic groups, which use attribute-based rules for group membership. When users are assigned administrative rights, there should be a governance process because of the potential of misuse. Privileged identity management, that is PIM, helps you minimize the number of people who have access to resources and provides a set of governance controls. Access reviews is another form of governance. These reviews help organizations manage group memberships, enterprise application access, and role assignments. Regular reviews ensure appropriate access rights, addressing security risks associated with excessive permissions, especially as people change roles or responsibilities. Then we have entitlement management, which enables organizations to manage the identity and access lifecycle at scale. It automates access request workflows, access assignments, reviews, and expiration. PIM allows to manage and monitor access to key resources across Entra, Azure, M365, or Intune. It reduces the risk of excessive or misused access permissions by requiring justification for access requests and enforcing MFA for role activation. You can use PIM with Entra roles, Azure roles, or groups. PIM is just-in-time access, granting privileges only as needed. Moving on to Entra ID protection. Identity protection helps organizations automate risk detection and response, investigate risks, and export data for external analysis. This information supports tools like conditional access for decision-making and integrates with SIEM tools like Microsoft Sentinel for deeper analysis. Entra ID protection helps you detect, investigate, remediate, and export risks. Microsoft Entra Permissions Management offers visibility and control over permissions in Azure, AWS, and GCP. This supports the zero trust principle of least privilege access, essential in a multi-cloud strategy. The tool detects, remediates, and continuously monitors unused and excessive permissions, aiding organizations in maintaining least privilege access across their infrastructure. And the last one we have Microsoft Entra Verified ID, which is a managed verifiable credentials service based on open standards. It automates verification of identity credentials and enables privacy-protected interactions between organizations and users. So that finishes the identity and Entra part. And we move on to the security section. Here I'll walk you through the topics listed on the slide for capabilities of security solutions, including an introduction to Security Copilot. As companies move to hybrid or cloud-based networks, Azure offers key security tools like DDoS protection, Azure Firewall, network security groups, and Azure Key Vault to protect assets, resources, and data against threats like denial of service attacks and firewall breaches. Let's study them. Let's describe Azure DDoS protection first. Now, DDoS attacks overwhelm resources on your applications and servers, making them unresponsive or slow for genuine users. A DDoS attack usually targets public-facing devices that can be accessed through the internet. Azure DDoS Protection Service helps protect applications and servers by analyzing network traffic and discarding anything that looks like a DDoS attack. The service protects at layer 3, that is the network layer, and layer 4, which is the transport layer. Key benefits include always-on traffic monitoring, adaptive real-time tuning, and DDoS protection telemetry, monitoring and alerting. Azure DDoS protection supports two-tier types, DDoS IP protection and DDoS network protection. On the other hand, Azure Firewall is a managed cloud-based network security service that provides threat protection for your cloud workloads and resources running in Azure. Some key features of Azure Firewall include built-in high availability and availability zones, network and application level filtering, and so on. Web Application Firewall, that is WAF, is another core infrastructure security service. It offers centralized defense against common vulnerabilities targeting web applications. It simplifies security management, enhances threat response, and allows central patching for vulnerabilities. WAF provides assurance against threats and intrusions, specifically protecting against application layer DDoS attacks like HTTP floods. While Azure DDoS protection guards against network and transport layer attacks, Azure WAF secures web applications from attacks affecting availability and performance. Segmentation in IT networks involves dividing into smaller, manageable parts. It serves several purposes such as grouping related assets for workload operations, isolating resources, enforcing governance policies. This approach aligns with the zero trust model and a layered security strategy, helping to contain breaches within one segment and preventing their spread across the network. Effective network segmentation enhances overall security, contains risks, and stops attackers from accessing entire workloads. Azure Virtual Network, that is VNet, is the building block of your organization's private network in Azure. A virtual network, similar to a traditional network in your data center, offers benefits of Azure's infrastructure such as scale, availability, and isolation. VNets ensure resource containment by default, blocking all cross VNet and inbound traffic unless explicitly allowed. This grants greater control over Azure resource communication within the network, with the internet and on-premises networks. Further into the core infrastructure security services, we have NSGs, Bastion, and Key Vault. Network security groups, or NSGs, let you filter network traffic to and from Azure resources in an Azure virtual network. An NSG consists of rules that define how the traffic is filtered. In the diagram on top, you can see an Azure virtual network with two subnets that are connected to the internet, and each subnet has a virtual machine. Subnet 1 has an NSG assigned to it that's filtering inbound and outbound access to VM1, which needs a higher level of access. In contrast, VM2 could represent a public-facing machine that doesn't require an NSG. Network security groups offer distributed network layer traffic filtering within virtual networks for each subscription. In contrast, Azure Firewall is a centralized, fully stateful firewall service providing both network and app-level protection across multiple subscriptions and VNets, enhancing the defense-in-depth network security strategy. Azure Bastion enables secure RDP and SSH connections to virtual machines directly from the Azure portal via TLS. Deployed within your virtual network, it allows browser-based VM access without needing public IP addresses, agents, or special client software for the VMs. Azure Key Vault is a cloud service for securing or securely storing and managing secrets like API keys, passwords, certificates, and cryptographic keys. Azure Key Vault offers two service tiers, standard for software key encryption and premium for hardware security module, HSM protected keys. Now let's learn about Defender for Cloud and its capabilities to protect your cloud through secure score, recommendations, and enhanced features that provide cloud workload protection. Defender for Cloud is a cloud-native application protection platform, offering a suite of security tools and practices to safeguard cloud-based applications against cyber threats and vulnerabilities. It integrates a development security operations solution, that is DevOps, for unified security management across multi-cloud environments and various pipelines at the code level. A cloud security posture management solution, that is CSPM, highlighting preventative actions against breaches. And a cloud workload protection platform, that is CWPP, providing targeted protection for servers, containers, storage databases, and other workloads. Defender for Cloud helps organizations secure cloud and on-premises resources, enhancing overall security posture through policy definitions and security initiatives. Policy definitions are rules in Azure policy, either built-in or custom, for specific security conditions. Security initiatives group these policies towards a goal, simplifying management. The Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, MCSB, is a Microsoft authored set of guidelines for security and compliance that provides best practices and recommendations to help improve the security of workloads, data, and services on Azure and your multi-cloud environment. It builds on the controls from CIS and NIST. Let's review Cloud Security Benchmark in Defender for Cloud. Defender for Cloud continuously evaluates an organization's hybrid cloud environment against the Cloud Security Benchmark controls and best practices. Its regulatory compliance dashboard displays the compliance status with the MCSP and other applied standards for your subscriptions. Security recommendations are actions for you to take to secure and harden your resources. Continuing further with the security management capabilities, there is Cloud Security Posture Management, CSPM. It provides you with hardening guidance that enables you improve security. It also gives visibility into your current security situation. Secure Score is the central feature in Defender for Cloud that provides visibility to your current security posture. Defender for Cloud continuously assesses your cross-cloud resources for security issues. The higher the score, the lower the identified risk level. Defender for Cloud provides hardening recommendations based on any identified security misconfigurations and weaknesses. Next up, enhanced security for Defender for Cloud. Defender for Cloud includes a range of advanced intelligent protections for your workloads. Some plans you can select from include Defender for Servers, Defender for Storage, SQL, Resource Manager, etc. These different plans can be enabled separately and will run simultaneously to provide defense for compute, data, and service layers. Defender plans specific to the types of resources in your subscriptions provide enhanced security features for your workloads, such as multi-cloud security, hybrid security, threat protection alerts, and so on. Then we have DevOps Security Management. DevOps combines development and operations. Defender for DevOps, a service available in Defender for Cloud, empowers security teams to manage DevOps security across multi-pipeline environments. It allows to manage your connected DevOps environments and provides security teams with a high-level overview of discovered issues that may exist within them through the Defender for DevOps console. Let's now explore how Sentinel provides a single solution for alert detection, threat visibility, proactive hunting, and threat response. Also, let's get an introduction to Microsoft Security Copilot. Starting with the definitions of SIEM and SOAR. Utilizing industry standard tools like Security Information Event Management, that is SIEM, and Security Orchestration Automated Response, that is SOAR, can significantly enhance an organization's threat detection and response capabilities through security insights and automation. A SIEM system collects and analyzes data across an organization's infrastructure, software, and resources, identifying correlations or anomalies to generate alerts and incidents. SOAR represents or SOAR responds to alerts from various sources like SIEM, triggering automated workflows and security tasks to address issues, complementing SIEM for a comprehensive security approach. Microsoft Sentinel is a scalable, cloud-native SIEM SOAR solution that delivers intelligent security analytics and threat intelligence across the enterprise. It provides a single solution for alert detection, threat visibility, proactive hunting, and threat response. The figure shows end-to-end functionality of Sentinel. Some key features of Sentinel include connecting it to your data, monitoring the data using integration with Azure Monitor workbooks, using hunting, search, and query tools to proactively hunt for security threats, and so on. Here's a quick look at the latest and greatest Security Copilot, which is not generally available yet, still in preview. Security Copilot is a generative AI security tool that helps organizations respond to threats rapidly and assess risk exposure efficiently. Its core feature is a prompt bar that enables security analysts to inquire and gain insights from security data using natural language. Now let's look at how we can protect against cyber threats with M365 Defender across endpoints, identities, email, and applications. M365 Defender is an integrated enterprise defense suite that enables coordinated threat detection, prevention, investigation, and response across endpoints, identities, email, and applications. It analyzes threat signals to assess attack scope and impact, providing insights into affected systems and automating actions to counteract attacks. The suite protects endpoints with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, assets with Defender Vulnerability Management, email and collaboration with Defender for Office 365, identities with Defender for Identity, and protects applications with Defender for Cloud Apps. Defender for Office provides protection against threats like phishing and malware that arrive in email links, URLs, attachments, or collaboration tools like SharePoint, Teams, and Outlook. It provides real-time view of threats, investigation, hunting, and remediation to help security teams identify, prioritize, investigate, and respond to threats. Next up is Defender for Endpoint. It helps protect endpoints, including laptops, phones, tablets, PCs, access points, routers, and firewalls. It does that by preventing, detecting, investigating, and responding to advanced threats. It embeds technology built into Windows 10 and beyond and Microsoft Cloud Services. It integrates with components in the Defender suite and with other solutions including Intune and Defender for Cloud. Moving further, Defender for Cloud Apps offers comprehensive protection for SaaS applications, crucial in hybrid work environments with increasing app usage and new attack vectors. Its features include Fundamental Cloud Access Security Broker functionality, CASB, SaaS Security Posture Management, SSPM, Advanced Threat Protection, and lastly, app-to-app protection. Last on this slide is Defender for Identity, which is a cloud-based security solution leveraging on-premises AD data like to identify and investigate threats, compromised identities, and insider actions. It enables security professionals in hybrid environments to monitor behavior and activities, protect user identities and credentials, identify suspicious activities and attacks, and offer clear incident timelines for rapid response. Continuing on the topic of threat protection with M365 Defender, we have Defender Vulnerability Management. Vulnerability management delivers asset visibility, intelligent assessments, and built-in remediation tools for Windows, macOS, Linux, Android, iOS, and network devices. Leveraging threat intelligence, breach likelihood predictions, business contexts, and device assignments, vulnerability management prioritizes the biggest vulnerabilities on your most critical assets and provides security recommendations to mitigate risk. Defender Threat Intelligence, that is Defender TI, that streamlines security analysts' workflows for triage, incident response, threat hunting, and vulnerability management by aggregating and enriching threat information. It features an easy-to-use interface, enabling analysts to effectively start intelligence gathering and response efforts through keyword, artifact, or CVEID searches directly from the threat intelligence homepage. And finally, we have Microsoft 365 Defender portal that centralizes protection, detection, investigation, and response for various organizational aspects like devices and cloud apps, offering a streamlined interface tailored for security teams. It provides quick access to key information and customizable layouts based on user roles, thanks to role-based access control. And that's all of what the security section encompasses. We have now reached the last section that focuses on compliance. In this section, we'll go over privacy and compliance and governance capabilities and focus on purview as listed on the slide. Let's start learning about compliance with the Service Trust portal that provides content, tools, and resources about Microsoft security, privacy, and compliance practices. We'll also delve into Microsoft Priva, a solution that helps meet privacy goals. The Service Trust portal, that is STP, is Microsoft's public site for publishing audit reports and compliance-related information associated with Microsoft Cloud Services. The portal's landing page includes categories such as certifications, regulations and standards, reports, white papers and artifacts, industry and regional resources, and so on. Microsoft values, protects, and defends privacy. The approach to privacy is built on 6 principles which form Microsoft's privacy foundation and shape the way products and services are designed. First is control. Customers have full control over their data. Next, transparency. Microsoft is transparent about data collection and use. Security. Strong security and encryption protect customer data. Legal protections. Microsoft respects privacy. No content-based targeting. Microsoft does not use personal content for targeting advertising and doesn't share data. Benefits to customers. Data collected by Microsoft is used to enhance customer experience, improve service features, troubleshoot problems, and personalize customer interactions. And then let's see a description of Priva. Amid growing privacy concerns, organizations face increasing regulations on personal data storage and management. To comply with these regulations and gain customer trust, adopting a privacy by default approach is essential. This involves Priva addresses these challenges with 2 solutions. Priva Privacy Risk Management, offering data visibility and policy templates for risk reduction, and Priva Subject Rights Requests, providing tools for automating and managing data requests. Shifting the focus on Purview and its capabilities now, the Purview Compliance Portal helps organizations manage compliance needs using integrated solutions for information protection, data lifecycle management, insider risk management, auditing, and more. The portal homepage shows how the organization is doing with data compliance, what solutions are available for the organization, and a summary of active alerts. The Purview Compliance Manager, which is part of the Purview Compliance Portal, streamlines managing compliance by assisting in risk inventory, control implementation, keeping up with regulations, and auditor reporting. It simplifies compliance and reduces risk with features like pre-built assessments for common regulations and customizable assessments for unique needs, efficient workflow capabilities for risk assessments, a compliance score to gauge overall compliance posture, a dashboard, and so on. Compliance Manager offers several benefits, including that it maps regulatory controls to improvement actions, it provides detailed guidance for meeting regulatory requirements, it helps prioritize high-impact compliance actions with a scoring system. Let's talk about Compliance Score. Compliance Score measures progress in completing recommended improvement actions within controls. The score helps an organization understand its current compliance posture and prioritize actions based on their potential to reduce risk. The overall compliance score is calculated using scores assigned to actions, your improved actions, and Microsoft actions. Organizations accumulate points in every action completed. There is a difference between Compliance Manager and Compliance Score. Compliance Manager enables admins to manage and track compliance activities. However, Compliance Score, which is available through Compliance Manager, is a calculation of the overall compliance posture. Purview provides unified data governance and risk management. Purview Information Protection helps discover, classify, and protect sensitive content across your organization, offering data, knowledge protection, and loss prevention tools. Purview Data Lifecycle Management manages content lifecycles, including data import, storage, classification, retention, and deletion, aiding in data governance and compliance. Together, they ensure data classification, protection, and governance. Diving into the data classification capabilities of the compliance portal now, identifying and classifying sensitive items that are under your organization's control is the first step in the information protection discipline. Admins can enable their organization to know its data through data classification capabilities and tools in the Purview Compliance portal, such as sensitive information types, trainable classifiers, Content Explorer, and Activity Explorer. What are sensitivity labels and label policies? Organizations need to protect data to secure customers, business operations, and comply with standards, and can achieve this using sensitivity labels and policies in Purview. Sensitivity labels enable the labeling and protection of content without affecting productivity and collaboration. Organizations can label content such as emails and documents. Sensitivity labels can be configured to encrypt, mark the content, apply automatically, protect content in containers, extend to third-party apps and services, or classify without using protection settings. After sensitivity labels are created, they need to be published through policies to make them available to people and services in the org. Policies enable admins to choose the users and groups that can see labels, apply a default label, require justification, and so on. Continuing on to Purview and its data-related capabilities, let's learn about data loss prevention, DLP. Purview's data loss prevention involves creating and applying DLP policies to prevent the inappropriate sharing of sensitive information and risky behaviors. These policies protect sensitive data across M365 services, Office applications, Windows 10, 11, and macOS endpoints, cloud apps, on-premise file shares, SharePoint, and Power BI. DLP uses deep content analysis, including keyword matches, regular expressions, function validations, and machine learning algorithms to detect content that aligns with DLP policies. DLP policies are how you monitor the activities that users take on sensitive items at rest, in transit, or in use, and take protective actions. Policies can be created from templates or can be custom. What is endpoint data loss prevention? Endpoint DLP enables to audit and manage activities users take on sensitive items that are physically stored on Windows 10, 11, and macOS. Examples include copying items to removable media or network shares, accessing items using unallowed apps and browsers, and so on. DLP policies applied to M365 services, including Teams, helps users collaborate securely while staying in line with compliance requirements. Next, we look at retention policies and retention labels. These help manage and govern information by ensuring content is kept only for a required time. This helps to comply with industry regulations, reduce risk when there's litigation or a security breach by deleting old content, and ensure users work with content that's current and relevant. To assign retention settings to content, use retention policies and retention labels with label policies. Then we have purview records management. This helps organizations look after their legal obligations. It also helps to demonstrate compliance with regulations and increases efficiency with regular disposition of items no longer required for business purposes. When content is labeled as a record, restrictions are applied to block activities. Activities are logged and proof of disposition is kept. And for unified data governance, Purview addresses the challenges of ever-growing organizational data and the complexities in managing it. The Purview Governance Portal provides a unified data governance service that helps manage your on-premises, multi-cloud, and SaaS data. Getting towards the end of this section and continuing on Purview, let's define some of the risk and audit related solutions. Purview Insider Risk Management is a solution that helps minimize internal risks by enabling an organization to detect, investigate, and act on risky and malicious activities. Managing and minimizing risk starts with understanding the types of risks, such as IP theft, intellectual property theft, or fraud, or insider trading, and so on. Insider risk management helps to identify, investigate, and address internal risks. With policy templates, activity signaling, and workflow, organizations can identify and resolve risky behavior quickly. Purview Communication Compliance is an insider risk solution. It enables to investigate scanned emails and messages across Microsoft Teams, Exchange Online, Viva Exchange, and third-party communications for business policy violations, taking appropriate remediation actions to make sure they're compliant with the organization's message standards. There are e-discovery solutions available in Purview. Electronic discovery or e-discovery means identifying and delivering electronic information that can be used as evidence in legal cases. You can search mailboxes and sites and export results and use e-discovery cases to identify, hold, and export content found in mailboxes and sites. Lastly, we describe the audit solutions in Microsoft Purview. Purview's auditing solutions enable organizations to handle security events, forensic and internal investigations, and compliance needs. It captures and records user and admin activities across M365 services, storing them in an unified audit log. These records are searchable by security, IT, insider risk teams, and legal investigators, offering insight into activities within the Microsoft 365 environment. Well, with that, we are done with this section, as well as everything I intended to cover as part of the security, compliance, and identity solutions in Azure. And for what's next? Taking it further from this session, you could study for the official certification from Microsoft, which is the SC900. It is the Security Fundamentals exam that comprises of most of the topics I covered. Microsoft Learn has great content on the Security Fundamentals Learning Path series, which will help you prepare for the exam. Also, since Azure is constantly changing and improving, you would want to keep up with the enhancements and the ever-changing landscape of the technology. So to finish up here, I hope my session was of help. Exploring and learning about security, compliance, and identity in Azure should be really beneficial to anyone in IT. All right, that puts a wrap on my presentation. I believe you got a good head start into Azure security with the walkthrough in this session. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned from it. I wish you the best of luck on your cloud journey. Thank you, happy holidays, and happy learning.